Board members, thank you, and thank you to the public for your patience with us. We are on agenda item 13. This is our monthly budget report. So, Deborah, are you ready?
Yes, if we can recognize Dr. Rodriguez and Director Sam Uri for the economic updates.
We do recognize them, both of them. Yeah. Thank you for being here with us, Director Uri and economist Rodriguez. I don't know. Nestor and Sam, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, board. How are you? Nestor Rodriguez, economist. Good to see you guys again. So a very brief economic update. I know in lieu of a lot of news items and the recent, the government has reopened again, as I iterated a couple months ago. In this sense, there's really much hasn't changed except, and I'll get to that towards the end, the governor released his budget, which is really important. Nevertheless, I'm going to go over the October 2025 TC23 revenue summary report. It's basically the year end for fiscal year 25. And then I know it sounds redundant, but they actually released it as the October 2025 report for the new upcoming year. So the first 3 months of 2026. And then the latest GDP report. And again, this is in lieu of the government shutdown and data availability. I'm sure you've been keeping up with current news. But the second quarter, again, has been revised upward 0.5 percentage points. But that release date was, again, end of September, just before the government shutdown. So in that sense, this was what ended up being for the end of the fiscal year. And as you can see, for the most part, everything trended steady or above expectations or within guidelines. And so in that sense, case in point, the income tax fund, 6.6 billion was actually collected. The range was between 5.8 and 7.1. And then 6.5% growth in the income tax fund compared to 2% projected. Next slide. On the other hand, bless you. On the other hand, in terms of the first 3 months of this new fiscal year, what you're going to note, there's a red arrow. There was a drop in corporate taxes. And again, this is really something to follow up with the tax commission on. But typically corporate tax collections and corporate taxes in general are volatile compared to the other components of tax revenue. And so I sort of just reading on what they wrote in their summary, and that'll be the next slide. They sort of outline that. Nevertheless, towards as you see the green arrows at one, income tax revenues are still steady. So what that outlines for us into the near future is suggesting that we're going to continue to see this sort of steady trend in income tax revenues. Relative, again, that number there, negative number with regard to corporate taxes, according to the tax commission and the like, seems to just be just to volatility and also to the changes based on things like the Big Beautiful Bill and the like. Next slide. And so this is actually what the iteration is, or the explanation is in the TC23 summary report. And if I'll just point your attention to corporate collection shrunk by 56.2%, the same comparison likely due in part to impacts of HR 1. Historically, though, corporate collections, I'm paraphrasing, are much more volatile than individual income. And consequently, and in past, I've seen this as well, when we usually release that first TC23 summary, this isn't necessarily indicative of what will happen in the remaining months of the fiscal year. Next slide. And so second quarter GDP estimates were revised upwards again. Again, remember, these estimates were based on what happened before the government had shut down. And so there's a lag now at this point with some reports they continuously indicate they're going to update to sort of catch up, and others I think they've just sort of discarded it at this point. Nevertheless, we see a steady revision upward. And so in that line, in that sense, we're expecting in terms of third quarter GDP, which may be delayed or pushed back just because of what's happening in the catch up in the federal level, sort of this sort of consistency, if you will. Next slide. And then in that sense, hopefully you give me the opportunity to visit with you again, because in January, just like last year or earlier this year, there's going to be more data available. Case in point, the governor's budget recommendations were released just yesterday. And so we're going to see more TC23 data. We're going to see Utah's Economic Council releases their report, their forecast this month, probably shortly. We'll get the latest GDP report, the earliest one for the third quarter. And then, as you well know, probably the holiday season has begun. And so we have sales, and so far, preliminarily, indications are positive. Maybe not so much in-store sales, but certainly online sales. And so, in that sense, also we have a FOMC meeting, Federal Open Market Committee. The Fed meets next week. It's anticipated there will be a new rate cut. Job market is indicating sort of mixed signals. 119,000 jobs were added in one report this morning. There was I think it was a private payroll report, a loss, but the unemployment, the number of jobless claims fell. So there's a bunch of mixed signals there. And so come January, I think we'll have a better outcome or better indicators as where the general economy is going. And with that said, happy holidays, everybody. It's good to see all of you again.
Thank you, Nestor. And yeah, we do want you to come back.
Okay. Just, again, given session begins soon. And we've been working on that too. The governor's report just came out yesterday, and there's a bunch of information there. And I think Superintendent Hart had indicated there was, in line with what was said there, I think is a good way to sort of think about what we're going to do moving forward.
Perfect. Member Davis.
With the chair's permission, I will ask, did you wear your Santa hat because you had relatively good news to bring us today? Would it have been a Grinch hat if it would have all been like downward slopes?
No. Well, I just don't want to jinx anything. And the indicators outside of, we're all worried about the big, beautiful bill and the impacts of that. I've been getting that feeling, sentiment across agencies. And I think I iterated this before. Keep this in mind. There's just new tax policies being put in place. And it was uncertain before, given the federal shutdown, but now we're back. So, no, I hope I've given you good news. And I think for us, anecdotally anyway, we've seen stores sort of packed, and holiday sales seem to be going as expected. Remember as well, and I think the governor reading his report, his budget recommendations, he outlines the pandemic, drought, and also the government shutdown as uncertainties that Utah has faced. He does talk a bit about inflation, but just, again, I've iterated to this entity, this council or board many times. Utah has been, and the rest of the country has been through some serious trials and tribulations. So I hope that's considering very good news, that we've been pretty stable.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other lights, let's move to agenda item 13.2, the monthly budget report.
Hi, I'm Deborah Jacobson, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. I'm testifying today that USBE continues to be financially solvent and can meet all current and future obligations. We are moving into the session, as been mentioned before, and the governor's budget was released yesterday. In your backups, you'll see what we've posted what the governor's priorities are. However, because it was rolled out yesterday, we have not had the opportunity to create the crosswalks. So staff are currently working on that, and we'll bring that forward in January so we can start comparing priorities. Back to Superintendent Hart's, we've already received about 38 fiscal notes, so it's already begun. We usually have hundreds throughout the session, so looking forward to that. It has begun. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any questions. Let's move on to the discretionary funds report, 13.3.
So we currently don't have any new or pending requests. In that upper right-hand corner, you can see what your balances are that are available at any point. If you have requests, of course, we do that by way of Finance Committee. So if there's no other than that, we are just status quo and continuing the current projects that we have on hand. There's no questions. That completes the report.
I don't see any questions. Thank you, Deborah, for your reports here. Very helpful. And we'll look forward to learning more as the session picks up and takes off. So thank you. Okay. Board members, if you look at the agenda, we have a time certain for our next agenda item at 5 p.m. This is the first time we've had a time certain 2.5 hours or 2.25 hours in advance.